But
During this highly choreographed switch, how about a donation? Just poke it in. $75 from the hand. Been watching for years, but I'm finally able to donate to this amazing cause. Love the work you all are doing, and I hope we can keep preventing cancer, saving frames, and arguing about animal welfare for years to come. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cool. Good job, man.
All right, so we're headed to Beast Castle first. Oh my god, the camera inverted. Okay. So I'll be changing the config here real quick. We're actually here just to get a stronger Keyblade. We'll be coming back here to finish the actual thing a little bit later on.
Is your customize all that you want it to be?
No, actually. Yeah. This is a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely not used to this. Forgot about the customize that I was supposed to be changing here. Thank you. There we go.
We got there in the end. Okay.
I can't believe you got through that. I would have died like instantly.
so you can tell.
So
right
the most
there-
gigantic choke in the world. I apologize for that because that is definitely not how that is supposed to go through.
See, Bloody right there calls that a choke. Every one of us would have died there, I believe. If your
yeah.
customization. When you have such intense muscle memory
thank God, okay.
running this game, those customize, which we actually
I
can
am
use,
finally back at home. All right.
we can use up to
change
4
config?
spells.
Yeah, I changed the config, but I forgot about the customize and beast, so that was kind of like the worst situation to start with.
We can use up to 4 spells there by holding L1 and pressing one of the 4 primary buttons.
We just have to explain this part real quick while he's re-entering the room. It's actually manipulating bulky vendors. What it does is when you enter a bulky vendor room for the first time since resetting the console, every time you re-enter it, it sets a flag for each bulky vendor to appear. So he entered it 3 times. That means every single bulky vendor we come in contact with, we can get. They'll all be there.
And to explain, bulky vendors are prize heartless that using RC on them will give you about 2,000 experience. So they're pretty important to get.
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, just being able to react like Bloody did in that fight when your muscle memory is so ingrained into using these customizations.
Oh my god, I was panicking.
Reflect and magnet timing is really important, as you probably noticed there, and being able to quickly dodge around all those attacks. That and yeah, and recover is insane. You can see basically when we have these 2-second fights that look like they didn't take a lot of work. This is what happens when they go wrong. And it gets pretty scary very quickly.
Yeah,
so.
that was a disaster to say the least, but didn't die. So
Didn't die.
hooray!
Also to note, you might be wondering why he isn't doing the rest of Beast Castle. You pretty much have to split up Beast Castle because it's faster map movement, kind of like we did the first trip there, where after you go all the way to Beast's room and do that kind of section of the world, you'll then warp back out and then warp back into the other part of the world, like back near the first part. So yeah, he really was just kind of breaking up there and conveniently getting the Rumbling Rose, which is the Keyblade he currently has attached, which gives him another finishing plus. It's actually much more useful in the other versions of this game where we don't have finishing plus like in critical mode, but it's still very useful. It's the most powerful Keyblade we have to this point, and it still gets a couple of worlds worth of use. And will later be equipped onto Valor once we get another Keyblade, the True God Keyblade.
And for example, in the beginner mode speedrun of this, because we don't have finishing plus, Rumbling Rose is pretty much used for the entire rest of the game because we need that extra finisher. So it's a very good Keyblade.
I think the biggest time saver with Rumbling Rose is actually specifically this fight, simply because of Master Form. Master Form destroys this fight. The idea behind this boss fight is to keep Grim Reaper from teleporting around. The less he teleports around, the faster the fight goes, so I'm going to be using a lot of magic to do that.
So just like with the Pirates and Barbossa, Grim Reaper is able to be frozen like this.
All right.
Yeah, and to kind of reiterate for anybody who might have been joining us recently, Finishing Plus extends the number of finishers that you have in a combo by one. Finishers almost always, I believe, do more damage than the regular combo hits, and oftentimes, such as the case with Master Form there, will stun the boss very well.
There's a slight BGM glitch in this fight. I'm not sure it's going to be too noticeable.
Yeah, I don't think we mentioned it at all, but this game does have BGM
Nice.
glitches in the original PS2 versions. We think it's basically if you skip a cutscene too fast, it probably can distort some songs.
I'd also like to note that Master Form, it stays level 1, and it's still that good. So, anybody out there who's like, oh, Master Form, it's not that good. What are you even talking about?
It's incredible. And there is an old route we used to do where we did level Master Form, but because level 1 is already so strong, it took too long to level to get enough benefit from it. So we just use that level 1 anyway, and it's still amazing.
All right, I just picked up Peter Pan. He's going to be useful in some fights a little bit later on, but he won't be seeing much showtime until a little later. Right now we're just doing a little bit of medallion collection. There's a neat little trick you can do here with Magnet and Solo Trinity. You keep on hitting him straight back into the Magnet and produce a lot of hits. Gets you a lot of drive back as well as dealing lots of damage.
So something to explain about Magnet is every time it pulls in an enemy, it also deals damage. So abilities like Trinity knock the enemy out of the Magnet, and then the Magnet pulls it back in, dealing extra damage. And that gets used with Group Trinity as well a little later on.
Like while Reflect is probably the most broken spell in this game, Magnet is probably my favorite spell because it has so much use with other things in the game. You kind of like synergize a lot of limits and other moves to produce a lot of damage.
Yeah, and one of the big uses of Finishing Plus throughout this run is using Magnet followed by a Finishing Leap or by another ability, as well with Reflect in similar situations. That is something that makes Rumbling Rose in Beginner, of course, very, very needed.
So yeah, these are the fastest gamblers you can get taking this path. So that's why we didn't just stay in the other part because we don't have to kill any pirates to get to them. So we skipped this room.
Something I'm not sure we touched on during the first visit. Pirates are, vulnerable to Blizzard and all magic, as we said before, but they actually can't be hurt unless they're in the moonlight. And because of that, it's really annoying to
Got the swag.
to kill pirates when they're in locations, especially when they spawn in locations where they might not be in the moonlight. That's why we try to avoid them as much as possible during these medallion fights. One of the reasons, rather.
And with that, we're actually already at the boss of this world. To kind of just explain right before he starts the fight, all we're doing on the second trip is you're trying to essentially unlock the path to all the other Disney worlds. So all we have to do is defeat Land of Dragons, Beast Castle, Port Royal, Halloween Town, and Agrabah, the second trips for all 5 of those. And they're all relatively short, and then we can move on to the final dungeon of the game.
Yeah, the game doesn't require us to go do Pride Lands at all, Atlantica, Hunter,
Yeah.
or Vigor Woods, except for that first time we went there for a minute. We can skimp Olympus too as well.
Never have to go to Space Paranoids too, yeah. So there's a fair amount the game doesn't make you do, which is kind of convenient because I know Riz has an opinion on all the worlds we don't go to.
They're all pretty bad speedrun-wise, especially in Final Mix. I've done an all-worlds run where you go to all those worlds on beginner, and you don't have much you can do in those extra worlds.
Right here, there's a little bit of tech. He's about to turn invisible, but if I actually just target him in midair in Land of Thunder, he just still hits him, even though he's supposedly invisible. It was discovered semi-recently.
I'm not sure we mentioned it, but this boss actually collects a bunch of medallions, and while he has those medallions, he's invulnerable. You need to knock all of the medallions out of him and put them back in the chest in order to make him vulnerable again.
And
Right here, once again, I'm preventing him from teleporting as much as I can.
Yeah, in the last phase of this, he's about to suck up all the medallions, which normally for casual people is a nightmare to deal with, but we have a pretty interesting way to knock them all out.
Yeah, 882 coins right now.
So every Thunder knocks out about 50 medallions, and Masterform Thunder hits several times, so this takes care of this phase extremely quickly. Hopefully Goofy is helpful. And
Not fast enough, but
Nah.
still
Not as
okay.
much,
Goofy can be using Goofy Bash there to knock MP orbs out, so you can get full MP for this part, but he didn't get lucky
There we go.
That was good, though, getting that reflect.
That's
So-
also the only planned use of Cure throughout the game.
Yep, there you go. That's just
That is probably my least favorite boss in the game,
A lot of
casually.
people hate it, yes.
And we made quick work of it there.
Yeah, this world is not nearly as bad as most of the others in the second visits for a speedrun on crit.
To note, the AGDQ couch is made for 3.5 butts. So we're doing what we can. All right. So that takes care of Port Royal. That unlocks his path. He can either go to Halloween Town or Agrabah right now. He wants to go to Halloween Town first because of the Keyblade you get at the
The
end
God
of this world.
Keyblade.
The God Keyblade.
It
And
has
we're
my
not-
one of my favorite designs as well, and it also is probably just the strongest of all.
Yeah, you'll be seeing in the level 1 data org after this run where we equip that Keyblade a lot. It's because it just boosts ground combo damage so much. It's, a lot of people are like, why not use Ultima? Well, Ultima doesn't have the damage boost that you get from Decisive Pumpkin.
Why not use Oblivion?
Dreamer, why aren't you using Oblivion?
Are we going to get Ultima in this run?
We are definitely getting old. Are we
What
going
about
to be?
Sephiroth?
Oh, we're fighting
Sephiroth?
Sephiroth in this run too, definitely.
Sweet. Oops.
This is the best speedrun ever.
I think your foot is on my cord here.
Yeah, and that's kind of
Chairs.
something
it's a chair.
we haven't really talked about. Again, Decisive Pumpkin does have the highest strength for the Keyblades we care about, but also its ability combo boost, I believe, is incredibly useful. And in this game and in the run, using Keyblades for their abilities is almost ridiculously more important than using them for their base stats. The stats don't nearly affect it as much as their abilities in most cases.
Okay, so as you saw at the beginning of this fight, Dan's Call does have like a magnet ability at the beginning of it, so we have used that to bring all the kids in at once so we could just quick kill them and throw them in boxes. Yes.
So we RNG manipulated or luck manipulated these bulky vendors to show up in this room specifically, so I'm going to go ahead and set up. Normally they're supposed to be random, but because of the RNG manipulation, they will always spawn right here. There's 2 specifically here, so we get lots of EXP. These guys yield about 2,000. Almost 2,000 EXP per.
That is actually something different in Final Mix. In the other versions, they give around 1,000 instead of 2,000.
So now, why, Biz, why did he summon Stitch there right at the beginning?
Just for a safety measure, so Stitch could parry all the enemies that would be trying to attack you while grabbing the bulky vendors. Like, you're invincible during the reaction command for bulky vendors, but afterwards you're not.
Those
And it
enemies
would
can
be a
all
quick
one-shot.
And with that, let's see what Peter Pan can do.
Forgot to summon him, but that won't be too big of a deal. All right, so this is going to be Peter Pan's first entrance. So we're going to round all these enemies up into this area right here. There's some really, really annoying Heartless later on, but if we do this correctly, we just get all of the presents.
Yeah. Doing
Those
this,
Heartless right there can go die
yeah,
somewhere,
the
please.
graveyards one-shot you.
This fight used to be such trash.
No, we used to have like 5 different strats. Like we would just cycle through them, and none of them really worked out. And then we finally just kind of settled with Peter Pan, and I think he's a keeper this time. I think he's gonna stick around.
Yeah, it will almost like never fail if you do it right.
Because the fight, well, actually, let's get hype, because this is the best part of the game.
Dude, I love luck. I love presents.
So yeah, to explain a little bit how this minigame works, the little red ones, we have to get 100 presents. Red ones are worth 1. The little yellow ones are worth a little more than that. The green ones are worth more, and the
Don't
brown
get too
ones are
excited.
worth a lot.
Okay, here we go.
It's completely random what they're going to come out with. So this is not. Oh, Billy Joel.
There we go.
All right,
That's
baby, we'll
pretty
take
solid,
that.
yeah.
Pretty
Okay.
solid. It
There's
can
a-
it can be horrible or it can be amazing. It'll just shower you with all the big boxes in the world.
And the other important thing, because it gave them to you fast enough, after I think the kids had just gotten out on the floor at that point. Lock, Shock, and Barrel can go out and start knocking boxes off of the platforms or off of the little arena you're in. So,
Yeah.
but either way, that little stupid mini game's over with. Time for the boss of this world, the experiment, where we will once again hopefully see some Peter Pan action and see the real usage of Peter Pan in this run. Starting off with Dance Call to push him all the way through his first phase. Riz, do you want to note kind of the best way to use Dance Call or the proper way to use it?
Yeah, if you just start with one of the buttons, and then because you can use both triangle and circle for each part of the limit, but you just alternate between them with a slight pause in between to get the most damage out of that. So you can see you did a ton of damage with it. Peter Pan's other ability is, as you attack, he also attacks with you, and that can keep a couple bosses stun locked, as you're seeing. The experiment can't really do anything right now. Sick ground combo.
Ooh.
I want to take this a little safe, yeah. Oh.
Well, that's okay
That's good.
because
We can see the third ability of Peter Pan, which is Tinkerbell's auto life. So that's. Ooh,
Smart. Yeah, I was gonna say, we actually have a known crash in this fight, but we know how to avoid it. It's basically when you're doing the reaction command to form them back together, if you get killed while you're throwing it, the game just crashes. That was a good save.
yeah, so nice.
He knows like all the backup strats.
Yeah.
Shoutouts to getting punched in the mouth.
When we count like deathless runs, we actually don't count the deaths where Peter Pan saves us, because we only count them for like those to continue.
It's only really a 15-second loss there. I mean, sure, if you want to count it as me dying, I actually did indeed die, but I didn't actually like lose the full amount of time there.
Yeah. It'd be like the same thing as using Mickey on Cerberus. Like, we
Yeah.
never count that as a death.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting that with all the summons, it's not just like one overpowered technique with each of them. All of them have like multiple uses within the run for why we want them. And the nice thing about Peter Pan is not only does he allow you to get those really cool stun loops on certain bosses, but also it's a free re-raise with having Tinkerbell in the fight as well. And Peter Pan stays out to keep the combo going. And so with that, probably in all the second visits to the worlds, I personally consider this to be the worst
Gotta go ahead and summon
because
you
of
for
these
safety.
first two fights. Now,
Yeah.
you're sitting here right now, they've given you all these overpowered techniques, and this is the last to know. That's the last bulky vendor that we're grabbing. It's mainly to try to get level 30 by the boss of this world, Genie
Which
Jafar.
he will. He got
We're
level
guaranteed.
29.
We're
Yeah,
guaranteed
guaranteed
this
now.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Unless he like ignores every enemy on the carpet escape.
Yeah.
I wanted to be absolutely sure that we hit level 30
Yeah,
there.
no,
Yeah, exactly.
Very safe.
But yeah, so these next two fights are terrible. All these like cool techniques and overpowered spells are, you know, we're not taking away everything, but Donald and Goofy aren't in this fight. They're most all of our limits except for Solo Trinity we can't use. Can't use any of our drive.
even
We
Yeah.
can't even
Oh,
use
yeah.
so we have no access to limits, summons, drives, our party members. We have nothing for the most part.
And instead, controlling these fights is a lot harder than he's probably making it look right now.
Yeah, like he had to use it. You can skip using an ether here, but the enemies were too spread out, and it's basically luck.
Yeah.
It's really hard to control that.
Had to use an ether, but it's okay.
It's not terrible because your potion and ether use in this game, it's a little loose. Like, there are definitely some backup potions and ethers that you get throughout the run to where, you know, inevitably something's going to go wrong in these fights. There's enough randomness to where it's kind of almost intended. All right, a couple of emergency ethers in particular.
Yeah, the route gives you some leniency. If there was not any leniency, this would be quite the route.
Yeah, Riz and I pretty much didn't really waste any ethers either, so like Bloody has a lot to fall back on if strats like don't go well.
To note what he's doing there, he's actually chasing the illusion of Jafar. The controls for the carpet are actually really hard to get used to at first. They're very slippery. Your momentum kind of carries a little bit. You don't really stop on a dime. And there's also a faster version when you're moving the carpet a set direction for a while. You'll start moving much faster, and he wants to be moving that as much as possible. So at different times you'll see him actually do a quick little loop with the carpet. That's in order to continue his momentum, because if you change direction very quickly, it actually will not immediately stop your momentum.
Come here, you. There we go.
That's very nicely done.
Really good, yeah. Again, another instance of really how good the combo system is in this game. How what he was doing there was he was kind of baiting out an attack from the enemies, reflecting that attack, and then immediately comboing that into another magnet in order to constantly keep the enemies staggered and keep them from using their attacks. Because again, the fights might look easy on critical mode here. If he lets the Heartless have an inch, they will take a mile and they will kill you. Especially those Crimson Jazz, those large red enemies, they do tons of damage.
The Crimson Jazzes have, I think, 2 or 3 one-hit kill moves at this point, so we have to take care of them, and the Fortune Tellers 2-shot us. So,
And to note, he moved in a specific way there to despawn all the enemies around the switches.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they would just interrupt you when you're trying to shoot the Blizzard one.
You could YOLO, but you'd also die.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
It's like a slick,
It's
like
not-
2-3 seconds you save if you don't
Yeah.
despawn
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Worth it.
Worth it.
Yeah, the suicide strats are worth it.
Also, shout outs to Cutscene Skip. Wait,
But
what?
For whatever reason, there isn't a cutscene here. It always feels like there should be. So a lot of times, a lot of us will just accidentally pause there.
A lot of people-
expecting a cutscene. But
When I
there isn't
started out,
one.
I would just stand in place, kind of expecting it, and then
Yeah.
you'd be standing there for a second, like, oh, okay.
To kind of add on to that, we never mentioned it at the beginning, but every loading zone actually fades in from black in this game, I believe, and during that time you can actually move Sora before you can actually see him. So throughout most loading screens, you're actually going to be holding forward to start moving a direction, or potentially spamming square to use quick run. And so when Bloody says that you would just stand there for a second, you might not even notice it when it's originally happening, when that happened to him. But actually, he should have been moving during the time where you couldn't see Sora.
Yeah.
So it's those kinds of little optimizations. Again, I tend to be the one that calls them out all the time because they interest me so much. Is that, that might be a half a second every loading screen, if that. But that half a second adds up over the hundreds probably of load screens we have throughout the run.
So of note on this is an auto scroller. We can't speed it up. Our main goal is to get EXP, so we hit level 30 before Jafar. And a lot of this is based on the way you kill enemies. Killing them as fast as you can spawns even more on a lot of segments, and you can get a ton of EXP from this just by optimally killing everything fast.
And another thing to note is the ability experience boost doesn't work in this section. Experience boost only takes
I
effect.
wanted it to so
Yeah.
bad.
It only takes effect out when Sora gets credit for the kill. And in this room, because it's the ground killing the enemies, experience boost won't activate. Yeah. It would make things a lot simpler, but
If you were strong enough to one-shot them, though, would that count?
I would assume so. I haven't put the time into doing that.
With that, we're going to be walking up to Gene Jafar here in a second. If you want to get in one quick donation before we get there.
Here's a quick one, $30 from Hagalaz. Hey guys, I had to donate during my favorite game with some of my favorite streamers, obviously. My grandfather has been battling lung cancer for about half a year now, and he's winning the fight for now. It's amazing what you guys are doing, and keep it up. Also, gimme that Kingdom Key.
Shoutouts to the Kingdom Key, which is a prize for donating here.
Does anyone remember the name of it? Yeah, they have who the person is that donated this. This is awesome looking. Yeah, I think if you donate like a minimum of $15 during the course of this run, which you've got
25.
25. Whoops, my bad. False advertising. $25. Then you will be entered into a drawing to win this. Gene Jafar, let's go.
It was supplied by KFJ.
Riz, please explain how this fight works, because you are the
Yeah,
master.
So when you're on the carpet, some of your attacks are changed, slide dash being one of them. And if you, for a lot of times we're kind of, matching out our combos pretty quickly to, do it fast. But in this fight, if you do that, you actually get a lot less damage. So For your slide dash, you want to actually let go of the attack button during them, so you can get the full damage, which speeds up the fight a lot. And other than that, there's an HP gate at about 1.6 bars that, if you break it with a finisher, Genie Jafar will just go into his desperation move, which wastes about 30 seconds and will probably kill you. So, avoiding it there. He's gonna do the RC one more time, and that should end the fight.
Yeah, a lot of people usually have trouble with this fight on critical mode casually if they're not a high enough level, and seeing it done like this is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and because we're level 30, that works out. At level 29, you actually do so much less damage that the fight takes an extra 30 seconds.
Wow.
So it's pretty important to get level 30.
That's also, as I understand it, one of the more consistent fights in the run, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. There's no
Almost
luck
no
involved in that fight.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
it's
God.
actually my favorite fight in the game. So.
Yeah. If you're on an
On the
RPG, it's pretty nice having a fight where there's no RNG involved.
If you wanted to know how to fight Genie Jafar on like German, PAL, PS3, something, Riz probably has a strat for that because he loves this fight.
I think Riz has uploaded probably well over like 7 Jafar strat videos or so.
Something like that for various difficulties and versions of the game.
Yeah, the strats between versions changes usually with
Yeah.
that fight.
So now we're going to finish up Beast Castle. I went into the parlor earlier. You might have noticed it. You might also have missed it. I went in there to activate the save point so that I could save warp straight to the parlor and activate this fight.
So he has to be very careful against these dragoons. They do have a one-shot, so we want to kill them as quickly as we can and keep them stuck in magnet.
He's still alive? Okay, you're not getting me this time.
If you notice right there, Bloody actually used the jump command, which is used by using the learn reaction command. That jump command is going to be very helpful in the next fight, which I'm sure a lot of people will be pretty amazed by if they had trouble with Zaldin, our next boss, as a kid.
With that, let's go ahead and give him a little bit of serious time for this fight, because there's a few cues he's looking for.
Mm-hmm. This is also another childhood fight that a lot of people had a lot. If you remember the guy with the lances that destroyed you, then this is the guy. So if I do this correctly, then hopefully this guy gets destroyed. Wow, that is a long time since I've seen that.
So that was actually bad RNG that Bloody got there. He wants him to do just his frontal attack so he can guard that. Nice.
That aerial dodge is pretty precise. I have to land it to get all of the learns.
And if he misses that aerial slash, he's dead. That's a one-shot, that lance attack. Also, honestly, that's some pretty impressive mashing that Bloody has to put out right there to stock 9 full jumps there. So
we skip his desperation move basically by stopping right before the HP barrier on Zaldin and then getting 9 more jumps so we can kill him. That's also why we didn't kill Zaldin earlier. We wouldn't have been able to do that. We wouldn't have been strong enough, but now we are strong enough. And just a little bit more about that fight. We did go into a drive form because it does more damage with the jumps.
And that's actually the last free drive use we have. We routed it so that after that, if we were to go into a drive in a fight, we might get anti-form, but in that fight, we're fine.
Yeah, we do have a chance of going anti-form in any fight that allows it right now,
Yeah.
but we will be fixing that soon.
However, another thing about anti-form is if you're alone, if you don't have both Donald and Goofy, you can't go anti-form. So we'll see that in this fight here against Riku.
There are a lot of instances in the rest of the run where I'm by myself, and I still have access to limit form, so I will not have to worry about anti-form there, and I can just be safe.
So Riku doesn't get staggered ever, so he just kind of sits there and eats damage, which is great with limit form.
Nice.
That's like perfect luck.
Yeah, whoa, wow, yeah.
yeah, that was so good.
That
Wow.
was really good.
All right, so now that we don't have to worry about drive uses too much, we can actually use the fastest mode of transportation we have, which is Wisdom Form level 3, which has access to Quick Run level 2.
Overall, Wisdom Form is not a great form inside of combat, but its movement is obviously very fast. So that's pretty much its main usage, and to give us Quick Run.
It has its uses in some fights if you were to use it, but
You'll
in
s-
speedrun, not really.
I say that,
Yeah, in data.
but in Data Org, you will actually see it somewhat, or not somewhat. You will see it in fights.
Yeah, one of the notable uses of it, I'm sure we'll touch on it later as well, is that you actually get MP haste, and I believe MP haste there as well. You get drastically reduced MP charge, which lets you use a lot more magic.
So we talked about this earlier with the magnet trinity. The trinity is pushing all those enemies in and out of the magnet, which deals damage to them, but also increases the amount of hits that the trinity gets, allowing him to end this fight in just one trinity. Hopefully here he has enough.
There is one bolt tower that was kind of lagging, so there might be
Yeah.
And he
a little...
got
Oh,
it.
there we
That was
go.
good.
There we go.
So normally if you did just a raw trinity without a magnet first, you wouldn't even come close. But doing it that way.
Yeah, that fight normally would be really scary if you didn't do that, because you have the assault riders and bolt towers surrounding you that can just hit you from all angles. And we also want to pick up all the money, so money like gets dragged into you automatically when you win a fight if they're still around. So that will help us buy ethers later.
And he actually equipped Jackpot on Donald, which increased the amount of money right before that, after the Riku fight.
Yo, this BGM glitch, I'm digging it.
Again, he wanted to dismiss Chicken Little there because he wanted to get to 3 drive bars like you just saw right there. Again, in case it wasn't completely clear, summons actually take up the drive gauge just like your drive forms do. So you have to route out how you balance using both of those.
Yeah, summons actually always take 3 drive gauge, I believe, and Valor, as do Valor and Wisdom. Limit Form takes 4, and so does Master, I believe, and then Final takes 5 drive gauge. We won't actually be getting Final Form this run unless we're lucky.
Don't speak too soon.
And Final Form or bust. But this is a really cool strat, so I'm going to leave this one to Biz or Riz to explain.
You can explain it.
All right. Well, so he is using Valor Genie once again for the invincibility and just the extra damage that it does. He's not going to actually do the very last part of the punch because it would send him flying off of Storm Rider. He'll only use the first 9 hits of it.
Yeah.
And again, that's just for extra damage. And he has a lot of damage. I'm actually going to pause for just a second there. If he had attacked too early, it would have broken Storm Rider's HP gate and sent him into the last phase without getting enough damage on him. So that's why he paused there for like half a second.
Yeah, we have to stay on the back as long as we can for this fight to make it go this fast.
Oh my god. It's happening.
Oh, baby.
It's happening. Back there for just extra chip damage. Here we go. Yes!
Oh.
Yes! RC finish! Perfect fight.
If I may, that fight can last as much as like 20 seconds longer or something if you get all the way to the laser. So that's pretty ridiculous that it ended in the RC there.
That was worth it. that was all of the worth it.
Oh my gosh. All right, with that, we have finally completed all of the the revisits to the Disney worlds. We've unlocked the paths to all of the Disney worlds, which is good enough. The game says, all right, cool, we made you go around and do enough BS. We'll let you go to the final dungeon now. So now there's one final gummy mission. We'll go to Twilight Town and then off to the world that never was. With that, again, we told you guys we were going to be doing 6 Disney songs. We did the top 6. The number 2 donated for was actually Be Prepared, Scar's song from The Lion King. And for that, I'm going to ask my good buddy Ghoul02, also from the Tropical Freeze community, to come up and help us out with this one. So...
Hello, everybody. I never thought hyenas essential. They're crude and unspeakably plain, but maybe they've a glimmer of potential, if allied to my vision and brain. I know that your powers of retention are as wet as the warthog's backside. But thick as you are, pay attention. Thy words are a matter of pride. It's clear from your vacant expressions. The lights are not all on upstairs, but we're talking kings and successions. Even you can't be caught unawares. So prepare for a chance of a lifetime. Be prepared for sensational news. A shiny new era is tiptoeing nearer.
And where do we feature?
Just listen to teacher. I know it sounds sordid, but you'll be rewarded when at last I am given my dues. And injustice deliciously squared. Be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared. We'll be prepared. For what?
For the death of the king.
Is he sick?
No, fool. We're gonna kill him. And Simba, too.
Great idea. Who needs a king? No king, no king. La 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 la.
Idiots! There will be a king!
But you said...
I will be king. Stick with me, and you'll never go hungry again.
Yeah, all right. Long live the king. Long live the king. It's great. We will soon be connected with a king who will be all-time adored. Do.
Of course, quid pro quo, you're expected to take certain duties on board. The future is littered with prizes. And though I'm the main addressee, the point that I must emphasize is you won't get a sniff without me. So prepare for the coup of the century. Be prepared for the murkiest scam.
La la la.
Meticulous plannings, tenacity spanning, decades of denial is simply why I'll be king undisputed, respected, saluted, and seen for the wonder I am. Yes, my teeth and ambitions are bared. Be prepared.
Yes, our teeth and ambitions are bared.
Be prepared.
Thank you so much to Gulo, too. Also, thank you to Ghoul for providing us with all the lyrics throughout all that. I want to thank you guys. I think, you know, the Disney songs was something we kind of threw on at the end of when we were trying to come up with donation incentives for this. I believe that raised over $5,000 by itself. So between that, the bidding war, and the level 1 data.org RTA, the donation incentives for Kingdom Hearts raised close to $20,000. So thank you all so much for your generosity. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I think the Kingdom Hearts community, we felt almost a little jaded being kept out of the marathons for the last 3.5 years, ever since Summer Games Done Quick 2011. So seeing that chunk of change raised for the Prevent Cancer Foundation, we're honored to be here and get to do this run, and thank you to all our fans out there who support us day in and day out as we do these RTA attempts. It really was a lot of fun, so yeah, awesome. And with that, that's the final going mission, and here we go, the final stretch of the game.
I guess I'll just talk about level1.org real quick, because that's after the run we met the incentive to do level1.org. It's a boss rush category in which we're going to be fighting all the data organization members at level 1. In 2FM they threw all the optional super bosses from the organization all in one room conveniently, so get excited for that. Bloody and I will be doing all of those fights right after this run.
It is truly the craziest boss rush you'll ever see in any game. 13 absolute super bosses, all of them can easily kill you, and you're at level 1. So a lot of the things that we have in this game, like the technique Once More, we don't have access to, which again keeps us from being combo killed. Essentially, we'll stop at 1 hit point. There's another ability you'll get at other levels in the game called Second Chance. That prevents you from getting one-shotted. You don't have access to abilities like that. So should be pretty crazy, and I'm really happy that they gave us the extra 30 minutes on the estimate to fit that in. But
Shoutouts to Muffin QT for taunting the sniper.
Never taunt the sniper.
No.
I love you, Muffin, I swear.
He loves you too.
So this fight is awful because you have Mickey helping you out, and he does everything except for help you out by knocking enemies out of your magnet randomly. And then to top it all off, you need Stitch to constantly restore MP, and sometimes he just doesn't want to do that. So you have two characters that can just wreck this fight for you and make it really slow.
Yeah, in a lot of cases throughout this run, your party members actually do more harm than good. We'll be seeing it again later in the Axel fight, most likely, although he can sometimes help you out.
Yeah, like as we saw, you know, the creepers spread apart too much from getting hit by Mickey and such, so we couldn't quick kill them.
Okay, great.
And there it is again, yeah.
Samurai spawn in twos, and when one gets knocked away like that by Mickey, it can be really tough to get a fast fight. He's back in the magnet at least.
Yeah, this is one of those fights that's very deceptively complex. You have to be listening for audio cues from things like creepers. You have to be keeping an eye on the samurais that get out of the fight. And you also need to be watching your MP, because if at any point it goes down near or into MP charge and Stitch is not refilling it, then you have to switch up and stop using magic or pop an ether. So there's really just a lot to be taking stock of, and that really doesn't let up the rest of the game. Most of the fights are going to be like that from here on out.
The plus side to that fight, though, is it's incredibly hard to die. Like, Stitch will parry probably almost every attack in there except for like a creeper drop down, I believe. So you're relatively safe from getting trolled, at least.
You would skip that out of real life.
My mind just kind of naturally tells me to just pick them up when I see them.
Yeah, so there are other categories of this game that people have routed out and made. Riz mentioned earlier the All Worlds category. Bloody actually made a really legitimately cool category called Gold Crown Run. When Bloody might have an opportunity, he might tell you a little bit about it, more than I can, but it's essentially 100% without dumb.
Yeah, it's 100% it is defined by us by completing the Jiminy Journal, and the Jiminy Journal has some interesting stuff, but also a lot of non-interesting stuff, such as grinding for synthesis items, doing a lot of odd mini games, and not a lot of it is really interesting. So Gold Crown is more just basically fighting the super bosses and doing all of the mini games from the organization mushrooms, and kind of like routing that out and seeing it kind of change is really interesting. It's a really long category for sure, but it's kind of interesting that people actually take so much of an interest in it. So I'm glad that people like it, I guess.
And Bloody is thinking about actually routing that out even further post AGDQ, one of his projects. So who wants to explain why this fight is absolute trash?
Axel.
Yep, Axel and Assassins are a nightmare in this fight. He can get cheap-shotted by an assassin killing itself if he falls out of magnet at the wrong time.
Okay.
Like that.
Yeah. That explosion is a one-shot.
Yeah,
so.
it kills you in one shot, and there's nothing you can do about it if it hits you.
Yeah.
Nice. Surviving that fight is always good. We were doing a practice run of it, and Biz, I hate to call you out on it, but Biz actually died 4 times on that fight in our race last night. No, I didn't even get to that fight, but yeah, that fight is pretty trash.
Yeah, it's hard to control the assassin. Sometimes they just don't get sucked in the magnet. They fall out. They can just pop up and kill you. It's a terrifying fight.
But thankfully it's behind us, and now we are on to the world that never was. This is the final dungeon of the game, and it's essentially like a big boss rush. And the first one is a Final Mix exclusive. Instead of just a cutscene, you'll be fighting Roxas here. If you're terrible like me, you die to this guy like 18 times.
He's an extremely hard fight.
They threw this guy in, and his output on damage is ridiculous,
Even
and
on
his
beginner,
and his
can easily
DM
kill
is
you.
also unbelievable.
Some
Bloody, do
people
you
say
want,
it's the hardest
serious
story
time?
fight.
Do you want serious time, or would you prefer we explain?
Go ahead and explain.
So this fight is really all about manipulating revenge value. Different abilities that you use, from a ground hit to an aerial hit to any really sort of magic. Everything has a different revenge value that it tacks onto a fight. And because when an enemy actually retaliates, the revenge value has to drop down to 0 at a natural level. It doesn't abruptly adjust to 0, we use that to manipulate this fight and be able to take care of him pretty quickly. And this is a fight that, for those of you who haven't seen before, can go really wrong really fast. Definitely a hard one at anybody's first time.
Yeah, a lot of people, like I said, consider it the hardest storyline boss in the game.
It also looks really cool.
Yes.
That's a really technical fight. There's a lot of inputs going on at once.
That fight is really where you test if you can mash, and both Spike and I know from learning that fight that there are times where you think you're doing absolutely everything right, and it turns out what you're doing wrong is you're not pressing your button quickly enough. And because of that, what happens is you don't necessarily die immediately. Roxas will actually not retaliate. And that's a really big part of that fight, is you need to make sure that you're doing everything as quickly as possible so that you're always hitting his revenge value, not letting him drop all the way back to 0 when he retaliates, and making sure that you force him to retaliate exactly when you want and can continue to loop him like that.
So Roxas gives us 2 things. One is the Keyblade equipped. The other is a combo master. We'll get into that later. But for now, the Keyblade equipped has a special ability that forces you, when you use a drive form in combat, to either get anti-form or final form. Either one is fine for our purposes. We just want anti-form and final form both lower anti-points to the point where we can use a drive on Zigbar.
Final form or boss?
Yeah, that final form has an extremely low chance of appearing. If it does, it's insane. Okay. Held our breath.
Everybody wanted it. So I could like.
Your menu to get super screwed up.
Yeah.
Final form actually, for most people, would actually hurt you because you're very used to the menus of the drive form at the bottom of the command menu there. And Final Form tacks on an extra one, so having to go into something like Master Form and knowing that you need to adjust your menu because Final Form is there is pretty hard to do. Luckily, Bloody here has played this game a million times and actually knows a strat for this fight with Final Form, so we were really hoping for the 3% chance that he would get Final Form there and be able to show it off.
Do you need serious time for this?
Yeah, sure. I would like some serious time. This fight is pretty ridiculous.
Might be the hardest fight in the game.
The DM skip for this guy is quite unbelievable. I'm amazed it even works in the first place. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, baby.
Yes.
Yeah, so just like try to go over that. We were able to skip his desperation move by just looping him in the last phase. It is pretty precise.
His
and
desperation move is unbelievable, and he becomes into the state where he just does not reload at all, and he shoots blue lasers, which are all one-shots. So if you miss that, it's basically death. I'm not even joking. Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, just also like it's incredibly precise with when you have to do like duck flares and combos and stuff. It's like if you get DM'd, also like we don't have much for dodging options, so we can easily get just destroyed.
You also saw him pause in the middle of the fight, and that was because Zigbar can actually use different moves.
I needed a pause buffer to check which move he was going to use.
Exactly.
So now we have Luxor next, and he's actually a very different fight in this game. It's actually not HP based. It's actually a time bar. Every hit you do decreases Luxord's time bar, and that's how you win. So we're gonna also be looping this guy in the second half of the fight as well.
So hitting him as a die lowers your form gauge and allows you to exit the die form much quicker.
Yeah. This final mix too, where they added that in.
Yeah.
And for those of you that remember Ars Arcanum from Kingdom Hearts 1, we never really touched on it, but this is it, right in limit form. Bloody will hopefully be using this later in the fight in order to skip the final minigame, which is actually Luxord's DM.
So here he's basically looping him by making him retaliate on the ground. And if he does it well, he can just do this the entire time without Luxord. He could do one of two things. He could do this mini game, which we do the reflect strat here, or he can jump at you with cards.
He'd rather see him do this the entire fight. This is the better RNG.
Yeah, this is the kind of luck you want in this fight.
This is amazing.
There is another attack he could do
Yeah.
if he thinks about it.
There
it
we
is.
go.
Oh,
Okay,
here it
I get to
is.
see the other one.
However, that is, it's a little worse. And he needs to do actually 3 aerial hits because that gets him back into the loop, as opposed to with the other one, you only have to do 1 aerial hit.
Yeah, so he's about to hit his desperation mode, so we're gonna try to skip it now.
Okay. Should be good as long as he gets it. And he's going to use the same idea as in the other fight earlier. He's going to throw an ether and then, oh, okay.
No, I'm not.
He had enough damage where he didn't need to use the ether.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, you'll also notice when he is using ours, he ends it a little bit early. Basically, ours does not add revenge value unless you do the finisher. So we stop it right before the finisher, and that just so happens to allow us to continue a combo too. So that's used in quite a few fights from
You
here
saw
on
that
out.
on Roxas as well. It blows through about 2 health bars on a boss.
Yeah, Solo Trinity as well does not add any revenge value, so seeing, you'll see that combo, kind of a lot where you go from a hit into a Solo Trinity into a hit into Ars Arcanum, just doing as much as possible to keep his revenge value low while attacking him. Also, shoutouts to a really cool strat.
Yeah.
It's
So
going to blow everybody's mind.
the way this fight works is he has this berserk gauge. Once he brings it to max, then he'll just go into this mode where he's constantly barraging you. But he has to charge it after I break him out of it. So right here, I'm going to be getting all of this damage on him with this loop.
Right here, it's important that he pins himself in between the wall and Syx so that Syx gets caught in all that reflect splash damage.
All right, so his berserk gauge is about to hit maximum. But the thing is, Peter Pan is amazing, and he does things like this.
So Peter Pan attacking while you're attacking keeps Syx unlocked, and he can't break out of this. Fight's over.
Yeah, his revenge value is skyrocketing. He's already well past it.
He should
just-
be hitting me back, but Peter
Yeah.
Pan's dagger is preventing Syx from doing literally anything. So I can just do this, and the fight is literally over.
You're probably wondering why we don't just spam this on every boss. It's because we either can't use a summon then, or it's not effective.
That's also, it's a pretty easy strat to kind of pick up and everything, but it's very hard to do that consistently. You have to jump and use your aerial spiral in 1 extra hit as quickly as possible, and you want to try to let aerial spiral get in 2 hits at the very least, if you can. It's not required, but the trick is to make sure that you keep doing that loop without dropping a single combo, or he can potentially break out.
No roll of shame.
He already knew it. He was avoiding it.
He's ready.
So here on this menu, we're gonna re-equip Magnet, set up items, seal Riku's items, and we're gonna take off 2 of Riku's abilities that we don't really want for any fight he's in.
That's something I don't think really mentioned is that in all these menus with party members, we're taking the items that they have just because they're more useful for us. A lot of party members have ethers and stuff like.
Yeah, they have some pre-stocked items, but it's to our advantage to just steal it from them and hoard it for ourselves because it's more useful that way.
He's fine. They don't one-shot you. If they did, it would be terrifying.
Alright, Xemnas 1 acts a little differently than he normally does in other versions of this game, but the principle is kind of the same, almost extremely similar to Roxas. We're going to be looping him for the majority of the fight, and then once he's in range, we're going to be using Limit Form and preventing him from using his DM by just doing this amazing combo with Limit Form.
I think this is a lot of people's favorite reaction command coming up, by the way.
Oh yeah, there are 3 parts to this. You don't just mash triangle, you wait, and then you use that, and it does about a full bar of damage, I would say.
Worth it.
Okay. Alright. My fault. Alright, I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to try that strat out. That was a newer strat that I was trying out and didn't really work in my favor. He's supposed to launch all the way down to the end there, but I just kind of went for something that I knew was not going to work in the first place, so I'm going to try it a little differently this time.
Yeah, a lot of people remember this fight as being like really easy, but on crit, when you're under level, that's what happens in this fight.
So yeah, like I said, one mistake, you're dead. That's kind of the story of this category.
That's pretty much, that fight was pretty much what's going to probably happen in .org at some point.
Yeah, and all of the strats in this game take a lot of practice for the most part. It's just a lot of getting it down to where you know exactly what you're going to do and exactly what's going to happen. So kudos to Bloody for trying a strat that he's less familiar with, and it's just unfortunate that kind of thing can happen when you're altering your methods on the fly.
So basically, like, he's abusing revenge value to make him teleport every time. If you don't do that, the fight gets really scary.
Okay.
It's actually kind of a little messy when he uses that attack, but Bloody handled it fine.
Yeah. Okay. That was good. We took a bit of a risk there by doing that hit before Limit Form. A lot of the time, that'll add too much to his revenge value, and he'll teleport out of that, but it worked out.
Yeah, in that drive recovery we grabbed for safety, this would have been the last time we might have had to use it if that strat didn't go well. But now we're good. So this is the start of the final boss segment.
I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it.
You're not?
You can if you want.
I guess we're not.
Screw skyscrapers.
The people at home know what I want to say, but I'm not going to say it.
I'm
Thank you
sure
to all the
there's
people.
emotes all over the chat now.
We apologize for whatever just happened to Twitch chat.
So yeah, a lot of this is just getting through some reaction commands to get to the actual fights.
Oh, there's so much screw skyscrapers right now, dude. Also, Bloody also has sub and has some really cool emotes, including Bloody Stare and other Bloody Stare. And skyscrapers.
The
or
two
buildings.
best emotes on the internet. All right.
So here, Magnet has enough range to just instantly knock all these enemies into the engines here. And Stitch is there again just to refill MP.
All right, so do we want to explain this upcoming core fight and how it's actually kind of terrifying?
Well, first, okay, when you throw out a magnet on the core and start attacking it, you can actually spawn a wave immediately. So what you don't want to do is start attacking the core, because then you're going to activate the claw attacks, which can one-shot you. So we skipped that, but the terrifying thing is we have to deal with assassins again, and they like to suicide on you if you let them. So we have to keep like constant magnets up the whole time to prevent that from happening.
And again, the suicide attack will one-shot you, so... If any of them get out for even a second, they like to use that suicide, like right there. Okay,
he
so
was waiting for it though. So. if he didn't do the RC, he would have died there because he didn't get staggered by magnet. It's just a thing that happens with them sometimes. And now this is the second wave. And normally there would be like claws coming down trying to snipe you, but the magnet on the core itself kind of has like a weird property to it where it kind of skips that for now.
if you're super lucky, Stitch will just keep licking you and keep refilling your MP, but it's pretty much routed in that you're going to use 4 ethers in this fight. Bloody's already had to burn through 3 of them, it looks like.
Yeah, I personally always feel like we have to use 4 ethers here.
Right.
Like, you can't rely on Stitch at all in this.
We're going to dismiss Stitch. We need to get a drive back to 3 to use another summon on the next fight. And once it's at 3, safer just to use the Riku's limit session to deal the rest of the damage to the core.
One of the big advantages to using Session here, other than the fact that it actually deals a pretty good amount of damage, is that you're then invulnerable throughout this entire move, and it's very long. So being able to use that while the claws are
This
attacking
just slices
you
through health.
is really nice.
Yeah, it makes that segment much safer.
All right, going for Chicken Little strats. The safer thing to do here is to use Stitch, but I've recently repicked up Chicken Little, and we're going to see. It's faster to do it this way. We'll see how it works.
Zemnis's sword swipe is a one-shot, so we have to make sure we reflect through that every time.
We get hit on purpose there. That forces Chicken Little's AI into using this firecracker attack, which deals chip damage throughout the whole fight. Overall, it saves about 5 seconds. Oh man.
Oh, this again.
Oh dear.
Shout out to Zach Braff for hold it.
Nice.
That was the most rando fight ever, by the way.
Chicken Little can sometimes mess with Zemnis's patterns, creating weird situations. And those water clones that were out, they do one-shot you, so it can be pretty dangerous.
Again, the alternative to that, the safe version you can use is the Stitch strat, which should be consistent every time. I don't think there's anything random to that.
Yeah.
And with here, most hype fight of the game, Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah, this would probably be a good place to read donations. The only thing to really note about this is they actually made this fight go a lot faster, and the next fight in the final mix version, they kind of shortened it up. I guess they thought the final battles were a little overly bloated, but yeah, we got about 2 minutes here if you want to read some donations.
And read donations is what I want to do. But before that, let us go over again our wonderful donation incentives here at AGDQ 2015. We have a few that are coming up that still need to be met. After Ocarina of Time, the last game of the main marathon, we have a $20,000 donation goal to stream the Super Smash Bros. Melee finals of the tournament that has been going on here, as well as a speed run of Smash Bros. Adventure Mode. So that is at about $3,000 out of a $20,000 goal. So if you want to see that, which I do, that is what my donation host choice is for, then put in your donations for that, as well as an Ocarina of Time glitch exhibition that will also take place after Ocarina of Time. That is at about $16,500 out of a $25,000 goal. So if you want to see that glitch exhibition, put your donations toward that. Also, Final Fantasy VII is coming up in a bit, and you have the chance to participate in a bid war for the for the character name of the main party characters of that game, as well as the classic save or kill the animals in Super Metroid, which will be after Final Fantasy VII. Donations, we have them. $100 from Furcase saying, "Dat Kingdom Key, though." Thank you for your donation. $200 from Wazian saying, "Loving the late night crew destroying some Kingdom Hearts and actually doing a great job with some of Disney's finest songs. You folks make gamers around the world proud. Donating for more of my beloved Ocarina of Time, because that's always a good thing." $600 from Gold Phoenix. "Greetings from the best member of the Kingdom Hearts community. I couldn't make it to AGDQ this year, but I have a special question for Mr. Bl00dyBizktz, sir. Excuse me, Mr. Bl00dyBizktz, sir, but do you fight Sephiroth in this run?"
No.
Well, I'm glad we settled that. Put this towards naming Tifa. Toji sucks. $124.43 from Nimd1. "Hello, this is Nimd1 donating 1,000 Swedish kroner for killing the animals. Everyone is trying to come up with something catchy to say about this, but I just hate animals. That's all." And that's all you need.
And with that, Blue Eyes White Dragon has been slain. The only thing to really note about that fight also is it actually is pretty easy to die in that fight. You take massive damage and you can't heal. It's kind of like the light cycle phase of Space Paranoids. But with that, there are 2 fights left, Armored Xemnas 2 and Final Xemnas. Do we have anything we want to say about Armored Xemnas 2?
He's very HP barrier based. He will knock you away after you hit each HP barrier. There's nothing we can do about that, but we have to be very careful about how we combo him. Bloody's going to have to react to if he retaliates or not, and throw out a reflect like that to make sure he doesn't get hit. And then when he gets knocked out, we're going to try to go for the most optimal building to get back to him.
The nice thing is the attacks Armored Xemnas 2 does aren't really random. They follow a set pattern, and also the buildings that you have to go to follow a pattern as well. So this fight is pretty consistent.
I'm going to go for the consistent strat here, since trying out new strats didn't really work out that well last time.
Yeah, also you saw Bloody do some aerial dodges right there, right after coming out of the building RC. That actually lets him avoid the snowflake attack that Xemnas can use, and instead be able to just drop right down and continue attacking him, being perfectly safe. That snowflake attack you can use as you're on your way back.
Not going to go for it. There is a crazy fast building that you can go for, but most of the time it gets knocked away because the building is just at your altitude.
Yeah.
It probably requires a little bit more working around with, but it's just not going to go for it here.
The buildings are a one-shot if they hit you too,
Oh, yeah.
so we do have to avoid them.
There's also kind of a little interesting trick that can be done in this fight. When you're really far away, you can actually use an ability called Magic Lock On, and use, I believe, a Thunder to hit Armored Xemnas and then immediately lock on and use a Trinity, and that will get you to him instantly. But it's actually not worth it for the time it would take, and the abilities you would have to unequip, I believe, in critical mode.
So now we have Final Xemnas, and he's going to open with a grab move, but we can skip the grab animation and go right into the reversals. And so we're basically going to be timing reversals with Reflect to get damage on Xemnas during this whole segment.
Perfect.
So now he's going to use Session to set up for the next use of Limit for him and get him close to the next HP barrier before he goes into his laser phase.
Okay.
BB has to be very careful about not pushing him outside of the boundaries. You can see on the outer parts of the wall. You can push him out there and you can't follow him there.
Depending how that combo goes during limit form will depend on whether or not he does lasers or grabs you again. So it's one or the other he does. This is a lot safer to deal with. It's just a little slower than the grab move.
There we go.
Okay.
So
No, well,
we're not quite out
yeah,
of the
I have
woods.
to mash.
Basically, Bloody needs to be mashing.
If you look at Riku's health, he's about to die. If I let up on the mashing, then he'll probably die, and I'd have to restart the whole fight.
Yeah, triangle and circle both need to be mashed as quickly as possible here in order to make sure that none of the lasers hit either character.
Yeah, unfortunately, if Riku dies, the fight does end. So it is a bit scary when he's one hit away from death here.
Time is coming up here.
Yeah, time is coming
Time in
up.
about a minute and a half.
Now, how are you ending the fight?
A minute now.
Minute, yeah.
Are you using?
Can you put this in the PS2?
Yeah, we're gonna have to get ready for Dead Orb.
Yeah.
Okay, so time will be right when Bloody actually uses Thunder on Final Zemnis. I'm sure he'll call it as well, but
It'll be white completely, and then it'll fade from white, and then time will be right around there.
beep.
Yeah, there are beeps to some sound effects in this game. I'm surprised we just heard probably.
That's the first one, yeah.
Yeah.
Quick shout outs to everybody that supported us, like getting all of these people here in the first place, and for having us, have the honor of giving this fantastic run.
I know we had about 25 people back at home.
Right about now.
Time.
Very good.
That's really good.
Very good.
That's an awesome
47?
time.
Yes, he
beat
said
both of our
47.
That's
PPs.
beat both of our PPs, man. That's amazing. Holy crap. That's amazing.
I feel bad for choking at the very end.
Oh,
on
no.
Zemnis.
Can
Oh,
we please point out that one death is ridiculous, especially when the last third of this run is just, a very long boss rush for the most part.
All right,
and
so
having one death throughout that entire thing is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, we had like 6 deaths, I think, in practice or more.
Yeah.
yeah, this was a fantastic run.